Hi everyone, it's Natalie here. It's early, and I really should be sitting down to meditate and do a long practice for the course that I'm doing, which at some point I really should talk about, but I don't feel like doing it today. But yeah, I'm exhausted. I woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't get back to sleep. And I know I just can't sit through another day of like struggling with not being able to stay awake while I meditate. It's so demoralizing, especially because the minimum time for this particular one is 1 hour, right? So sometimes I'm sitting for an hour and 10 or an hour and 20 or an hour and 30. And when it's a nightmare because the body is tired or the brain is tired or the sleep cycle is out of sync or whatever, it's just too much. So I decided to engage on a different level, and I found some interesting depth in the last few days with this deck, right? Which is, where's my box? Here it is. It's the Luminous Void Tarot, created by Laura Zuspan, or Zuspan. I don't know how she pronounces it. It's a really beautiful little deck. And I say little, but it's big. How big is it? It is this big. It is so big, as you can see. Like, trying to hold this honker is a challenge. I'll show you how challenging it is to shuffle and or work with here in a few minutes. But first, I was just going to show, like, I don't know, I had a really cool reading this morning and yesterday with this deck, which is completely... I had it out for a VR. I've been trying to do the 21 questions, 21 tarot questions, or I can't remember the prompt name. I have all my little notes like written out here, like beep, on some old scrap paper. And I got halfway through it over a week ago, and then couldn't get to the rest of it yet. But all of the decks for it are still sitting out, and this is one of them. So, and I thought, I haven't really worked with this deck since 2019. I got it in, I don't know, May, June 2019, and worked with it quite a bit when I first got it, and I loved it, and it was very hard to shuffle and very hard to work with, and I was imposing RWS meanings onto the cards, which I now realize is not at all where she's coming from. Yeah, I don't know. It's such a luscious deck. I mean, it's so beautiful, such an unusual shape, right? It's got so much negative space with all the white. It is rose petal finish. It is one of the worst decks ever to try and shuffle. And I should say too, this is a first edition, okay? She did make a second edition that is smaller and much more shuffle friendly. But I can't, obviously, like, riffle shuffling it is just not, it's not realistic. I'll show you what I do instead. And even overhand shuffling is a painful prospect, but it can be done. It can be done. I've also shifted my reading style this week after watching one of Natalia's videos over at Tarot Shrink. I love her. Everything about Natalia makes me happy. I love her style. I love her sense of humor. I love the way I like her depth. I have a lot of Scorpio and water in my chart, and even though I'm a Sagittarius, and I just love her. And she suggested in one of her videos that she recently either reposted or just released, I'm not sure which it was, sip of coffee, the possibility of starting your reading with the cards face down. So I did that this morning, and well, the last several days since I watched it. It's a game changer, guys. If you have never tried it, it really completely makes you look differently at the entire thing. So I'll share my morning reading spread. It's one I just made up myself, probably from having looked at 1,000 other ones that other people have. and I came up with it one day, just kind of like, oh, I'll just do this and for a 3-card reading, and it's really stuck, and I love it. So my first card, the question or the prompt is, what is the energy of today? And so the energy of today is the 7 of discs. The 7 of discs. So, you know, like your hard work's paid off, it feels good, everything about it is fabulous. But when you look at the way that this is drawn, is that what's being conveyed here? Really? And you know, I read, I'm about a guidebook, right? I like a guidebook. I'm a guidebook kind of guy. And you know, because we use guys interchangeably these days. So I'm one of those guys. And I like the term. I like talking about guys. You know, hey, you guys. What about this guy? That kind of thing. I just like it. Anyway, I'm all over the place. You can tell. This is the guidebook. Now, folks, you know what I'm like. Some of you, if you've been on the channel around for a while, you know, like this is my kind of like guidebooks for me are chunky. I like a chunk, like a chunky guidebook. I like some beef. This is not that. Nope. So what does it say? What does she say in said guidebook? It is, we have the, you know, this is a very beginner friendly book. And I do find in my own life, having a beginner's mind is really helpful for everything, basically. Yeah, pretty much. I think that's fair. This is all 21 majors, friends. All 21. Oh, both of these suits. Okay, wands, cups, swords, discs. Right. Then we go a little further. We've got how to read using the tarot, right? The Golden Dawn Tarot spread, which is actually pretty deep. Deck ritual and care, etc. Reading recommendations. I thought, wow, this is really lacking. This guidebook's lacking. I didn't necessarily, when I first got the deck, I just was like, oh, is that all? She's just going to give you a sentence fragment and that's it? Okay, fine. Well, I'm not going to worry about that. That was a mistake. Don't you love that? So her, here's what she says about 7 of discs. She writes, 7 of discs, fear of failure in work or beyond. That is so clear in this. And I don't know how visible it is. And I'm sitting down, so I can't see. My camera's like way up there and then it's zoomed in, right? But she's kind of doing the side eye, like looking that way, right? That's someone who's not trusting the way that work is going. And it's very apparent. It's very simple. Simple card. Simple meaning. You know, because when you think about it, if you think about the 7 in the RWS deck, right? The guy's leaning on his farming implement, looking at all the discs that he's been growing. And, you know, it's implied in there, right? It is implied that, yeah, when you work really hard, there's going to be a sense of satisfaction, but there's also the fear of, you know, at that moment when crops and growth is vulnerable, there's a fear, like, what if it doesn't come to fruition, right? What if it doesn't quite work out? It's very, very smart. And she went one direction with it. Very simple, one direction. Not the band, but the philosophy. So card 2, the question is, how may I best make use of this energy today? And we have the Ace of Discs. Reading the guidebook says, Ace of Discs, new earthly success, an opportunity based on health or business. Card number 3. This is all very simple. If you're Natalie, you can't overthink it, because what does Natalie like to do? Overthink it. Card 3, 5 of Swords. Very simple. Surrender or defeat. Surrender or defeat. And the prompt, I'm sorry, I should have said the prompt for number 3 I'll put all of it in the description box for everyone, but the prompt there is, in what area of my life do I most need to apply this? Right? So this is the sort of thing that we can't control, right? It's the energy of the day, right? There's going to be a sense of, oh no, things might not work out. I'm worried that it might be terrible, something might be good. When I got up this morning and looked at Schedulicity, which is where we schedule all of our patients, it said that we have huge, long, like 1 and 2 hour gaps in the day between patients all day long, instead of being filled up all the way through, which is a lot for us to deal with because it's not great. So that's the energy. And the doctor, I know that like divine intervention is always happening, right? She's not in a great place to really be seeing people, so we're only seeing what we can handle and the people that we can handle right now. And that's how it is. So that tends to be what happens. It'll get better, it'll get easier. The best way to make use of this energy is to reaffirm, right? Reaffirm, to look at how we can think in terms of new possibilities. Like, what are the things we might want to do? We are looking at moving business locations, right? So like setting up in a different building and expanding the practice and so forth, but we haven't had time to talk about it. So possibly allaying the fears and making things easier might be by doing that, right? In what area is it most needed? Well, the swords are thoughts, right? The swords are about our thinking. They're about the mental sphere. So wherever we're feeling a sense of surrender or defeat, right? I would say in this case, it's probably defeat. Pausing the mind, stopping the mind and saying, okay, it's all right. It's okay to feel like that. But what do we need? Where can we think about shifting things and moving them forward, right? It's very simple, very straightforward. In the spirit of totally overcomplicating everything, because I'm, again, very, very good at that. I also feel like this deck has a very Dakini feel to it, right? The Dakinis are not complex. They don't complicate shit. They just lay it out for you. It's very straightforward. I've got the, what is it called? Tantric Dakini Oracle. I tend to want to refer to it as the Secret Dakini Oracle. I know that was its original title. And today I drew self-preservation. And the prompt for that is, what card best summarizes the entire reading? And that would be it. It's basically to look at what are the parts of yourself that are impermanent. What parts of yourself are permanent. We could say it's the mind stream, right? Or a lot of people would say the soul. In Buddhism, we say the mind stream. And yeah, really thinking about boundaries and how to kind of keep your energy in so that it's not being dispersed and thrown away on things that you can't control, right? And again, because I'm just like playing with cards too. I like to play with all the decks. I pulled a Sovereign Oracle card. I love this little tiny deck. And what came out? Ta-da! Discernment, right? So establish what is yours and what isn't. Be conscious about your yes, like what do you say yes to? And then create permeable boundaries. Very important. Very important. I have a tendency to go, oh no, somebody I love or care about is really upset about something. What do I do about it? Because there's got to be something I can do about it. Now it's my problem. Da, da, da. Yeah, it's not helpful. It's not helpful. So discerning it's a good reminder. It's actually really deep reading. I can instantly see from the simplicity here, like how all of those fit together. There's no real way to get lost in esotericism in all of this. It's just very, very simple, right? Of course, it raises all kinds of questions, right? In the spirit of like Natalie loves an analysis of everything. It's I mean, yeah, of course. It can be very much that way. You could look at it and say, okay, but what are the aspects of the cards that are missing, or what's being implied? There's all that. There's all kinds of ways to go about that, but it's not necessary. Now, interestingly, I had some other thoughts too. We're just going to flip through this for a minute because I'm going to find, you can see the deck a little bit more. That's pretty clear. But again, like the Three of Swords there, let's see, what does she say? I mean, what I'm seeing is like, it's daggers of the mind, right? Oops, look at me getting all enthusiastic. How badly did I just mess up our shot? Not so bad. Okay, it's back. It's fine. What do we got? Three of Swords, heartache, heartbreak, depression, mental suffering, and interference, right? Interference, definitely mental suffering. Yeah, you know, the kind that leads to heartbreak. But I like that it's a cloud, which again is air, mind, but it's also cloud, right? It's where air and what, look at this, I'm a mess. Intermingle, right? So the mind and heart intermingling, you know, mental and emotional intermingling in that cloud, symbolically. What I'm trying to do here ultimately is not give you necessarily a flip through or an analysis, but I wanted to find, it's so hard not to. I might have to at some point. There might be more videos of little musings of working with this deck. It's fun to make new discoveries of decks that you think you know, but then find that you don't. See, it does stick. It does stick together, which is irritating, but it doesn't render it unusable. It just renders it awkward. Oh lordy. The reading I had yesterday had an equal kind of simplicity and depth, even though it included a major. It included a major. These are, there we go. Okay. Yeah, you can see, right? I don't know. If I love this enough, it might be worth maybe. I mean, I may be getting a new copy that's smaller. I tend to be of the mindset, here we go. I tend to be of the mindset that, you know, like I would teach my students, you know, it's the prop you were given for the play. Make sure, you know, that you can't just find the way, maybe, or make a discovery about the way that it could be used or worked with that becomes uniquely yours, right? Because that happens in theater all the time. There it is. Okay, of course. You know, the card you want is always the one that you can't find. So these are the ones yesterday. Energy of the day was Knight of Swords, right? So lots of communication, lots of mental energy, verbal energy, you know, energy charging at you, coming towards you. What's the best way to make use of this energy today? 10 of Swords. And then in what area of my life do I most need that energy? The Lovers. Fascinating. Let's just look, shall we? Let's look at what these all mean. So the Knight of Swords, I love how he's got a kind of dopey look on his face, and he's wielding that sword kind of like he has no idea what to do with it, right? So there's a certain awkwardness there. Even though there is also a certain probably type of mastery from a knight. So Knight of Swords, a mental message, a letter, an aggressive person coming or going in your life. Well, we could say that actors could be a bit aggressive. They never mean it. Well, sometimes they do, but generally my students don't. They're really pretty sweet. But I was with them yesterday. It's the end of the semester. Yesterday they were doing their musical theater showings. So I went to go see them do musical theater, singing songs. It was beautiful. And there was, of course, a ton of communication. There was a lot of writing things down, of making notes, coming home to type notes for hours. It was a lot, right? What's the best way to make use of this energy? Now that 10 of Swords is fascinating. Let's read what it says. Because the way it's written and what I actually got from it are a little different. So let's see. 10 of Swords, death, birth cycle, totally appropriate here. Last gasp of fear, indicating transformation is near. I don't have any last gasp of fear, but transformation, yes, because, you know, a cycle is ending. Yeah, there's a definite death-birth cycle. There's definitely a death. It's more of a death cycle. I mean, the students are being born into the world a little bit differently. They're now going to be sophomores. They're not freshmen anymore. You know, but that's ending. It's ending. And at some point, maybe I'll talk about how beautiful it was just to go back into the classroom after 5 years away. It was, well, there's transformation possibly near as a result of that. It made me really reconsider what teaching means to me in that context. You know, working with younger people. I love college age people. I really love that age group. It's also where I have a lot of wounding, and it's actually the location where the wounding took place originally. So you can imagine the amount of healing that also had to take place in order to be back there, to love being there and to love teaching there again, right? But I feel like what this one is about, you know, if you look at the way the swords are drawn, there's so many ways this one can be interpreted, because it looks like little people. And there are 10 of them. And in one group I had 12, and in the other group I had 13. But it kind of feels a little bit like the way I carry the students with me throughout the semester, sort of on my back, in my mind. You know, they're always on my mind. I'm always considering what I'm teaching them and how well that's working. How I carry them, what words I use, right? The kind of language I use around things to discuss it. It's just very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. You know, how do I best make use of this energy? Find the way, you know, I'm going into watching them do showings, etc. Find the way to begin detaching, right? How do I detach from them as part of that birth-death cycle, as part of that transformation? And then the area where this is most necessary, the Lovers, right? Now, the Lover's kind of a deeper card, right? Because it is a major, but you know, as I think it was Queen Osset said to me when I first started up my channel, and I would really agonize over certain cards or meanings and stuff when I was doing just simple daily readings for myself. And she was like, you know, sometimes it's really not that deep. And it's like, yeah, no. And I remember that actually rings in my ears frequently. Sometimes it's really not that deep. So what do we have with the Lovers? She writes relationships and choice making. I mean, come on, guys. That is a concise meaning that absolutely summarizes this particular card. Make choices about what you write, yeah, or commit to paper, say, speak, take in, etc. Based on knowing that you're going to need to find some detachment, right? Similarly, we could say, you know, looking at this, if it's about just relationships, right? We can't necessarily tell the gender of these two individuals, although it does kind of look like they might both they could both be women. It kind of seems like they might both be women. We don't know. There's a connection, but it doesn't necessarily seem sexual, right? So it leaves open the possibility that we're talking not just about lovers. And keeping in mind, this is her deck, right? This is just her deck. They're not consorts necessarily, right? They're, you know, they may be friends, but it's about relationship with other people. And I can tell you, as someone with, you know, I have Aries in the first house, and Libra in the 7th, which is where they fall, and Pluto in Pluto's in Libra in the 7th house. So, that's relationship and self is where I spend a lot of time in my life contemplating anyway, right? So contemplating, how do I find detachment, or begin to let go and become more objective about relationship, which is necessary in order to be able to write good feedback. It just is. So not a big deal. And I don't remember what the Dakini card was that I pulled yesterday. It was yesterday. And my journal is actually in my phone, which is currently recording this. But I find it, it's interesting just to get that space and that distance from a set, from the deck. I feel like this deck actually, and I'll go ahead and pull these out, and we can maybe, how long am I going here? I might need to kind of wrap it up and head to work, right? Because I'm doing all right. It's okay. I can spend a minute or two. So we looked at those in depth, an interesting 5 of discs, right? The definitions for these cards are not what we would necessarily expect. They relate to the RWS, like you can find as you read them, obviously, they relate to the RWS. But like the 9 of Swords, right? Like it really is, they're 9 of Swords of the mind. I don't know, the open space there offers something different. 9 of Wands, again, not that different from what we're used to. Beautiful Hermit. 4 of Discs, there's a good example right there. I had that one recently. The 4 of Discs, that does not look like someone who's greedily holding on to something, right? That's where we tend to go with 4 of Discs. She writes, material power, vitality, and integrity, financial responsibility. Very different. She's actually going a very different direction with these cards, and it's very simple, very simple, very beginner-friendly deck, right? This Tower, I love that Tower. There's so many cards actually in this deck that I really love, which I've been reminded of. Healing, restoration, renovation through destructuring. And we've got that. I mean, she does rainbows all the way through, but like the eye with the awareness, the eye that sees everything, all of the chakras kind of burning up. I mean, it's Tower, but it's also a slightly different Tower. You can read RWS into this, but there's more. Right? That 5 of Wands is pretty clear. I love this one. That kind of felt like, what? I remember the other night I was like, what? What is this? What is this? For strength, she writes strength and taming the inner beast. And the inner beast, right? Think about this one for a second with me, will you? Indulge me for a second. Because if you're not already, of course you are. You're here, right? If you're watching. If you think about it, like looking at this card, you know how it is when you think something inside of yourself that you don't want to look at is going to be really awful, right? Like I don't even want to contemplate my own tendency toward, I don't know. Of course I can't think of an example. But any tendency, right? Something that is an inner beast on some level inside of us that becomes hard to tame. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Often what I find is that when I look inside and I really look at it and I have the ability to confront it, it's really nothing more. The huge wolf that I thought I was about to have to encounter with is actually it's just a small dog. And the dog might be running crazy and running rampant all over my head and giving me a hard time, and it might feel like, oh my God, this is so much, but it's actually really not that bad. It's just a dog. And I love dogs. I have one. He's kind of a beast sometimes. that is kind of invited there in that space once you read the definition. But and it harkens back, of course, you know, to the strength card in the RWS, but it goes a different way. You know, it goes a different way. Similarly, the kind of blurring here, there's like this very defined, you know, boundary in this shape. But then the blobs of watercolor here appear where the arms and the head are poking through. You know, we're looking inside with that. I love that. I just, like, once I saw, I mean, you know, when you look and you really take it in, it is designed to be contemplative, and to find, you know, to find something. It's beautiful. You know, that Ace of Swords there, it's on top of the head. It is the mind. It's an immediate, like, hey, this is what this is, you know. Two of Swords. I love that one. Again, very RWS. Something I also really love are the crowns. The crowns, and actually when you look closely, I hope this is coming into focus, when you look closely at the crowns, you know, and the faces, there's so much detail, actually. It's remarkable. I wonder how much bigger the paintings, you know, that she, or the original kind of watercolors were than this. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much in here. Look at that. I mean, that's contemplation right there. Anyway, that Four of Cups, again, that is not what we're quite used to. There's that extra one back there, and there's the three in front of the person. Let's just look at that. I haven't looked at that one for a minute. Emotional security. The need to stay inspired for long-term well-being. Now, is that potentially there in the Four of Cups in the RWS? Absolutely, of course. But it's not the way it's being construed for the most part, right? As we talk about it. When we talk about it in the community, that is not really the way we talk about it. That's not really where we go with it. We talk about dissatisfaction, right? Or not being satisfied with something. But actually this is very different, right? It's choosing emotional security and the need to stay inspired in order to, you know, which is kind of not the same as dissatisfaction. It's turning dissatisfaction on its head. Just, yeah. Anyway, that's probably enough. But yeah, my interest in this deck has totally been piqued by, I don't know, I guess just not having looked at it for so long. This is how I'm going to attempt to show you what I've been doing to shuffle this, which is kind of a nightmare, as I said. Sorry about the hands. The allergies have been rampant, and I only just managed to get medication for it. So really, I've been kind of doing this, and it doesn't go any easier off camera generally, right? You can see, like that's just a lot right there. They don't comfortably shuffle. Oh, yeah. And they stick, right? They're very rose petal. I don't know if the second edition is any better. If you have the second edition, let me know. I'm curious. The smaller one. It is a little bit easier this way because the cards are bent. You see, it's a better shuffle. They're slightly bowed. I don't remember if they were that way when I got them, or if that's a result of just being in the box over time and just kind of bowing a little bit. They're kind of like bowing up this way, and kind of bowing, you know, they're convex this side, concave this side a little bit. So that does make it easier to shuffle them this way. I do like to riffle 3 times just to clear a deck or start a reading before overhanding. But even overhanding, I'll show you, is, with this one, it's just kind of, it's hard. They just go in chunks. They just go in chunks. You kind of can't see. It's hard to show. It is really the weakest aspect of an otherwise exceptional deck. I mean, really exceptional. It's such a beautiful deck. I do love it. I really love it. Anyhow, look, here's crystals. These are the ones I was using to hold the space, to hold the frame there. Wow, okay. Anyway, there's a great big Tibetan crystal for you right there. Right there. All right. Tons of love to everybody, and thank you for indulging my little tarot musing here for the morning, and I will see you again soon. Bye.